interview or to have conversation with Louise and Lee and Marion. Oh, just ask them one question, they'll get themselves going. So I thought what we could do is perhaps find out a little bit about each of you and what brought you to Cotuit, or maybe what brought your families here to get it going. And if anyone has trouble hearing, let us know, because there is a microphone that's on here, and we could pass it along. And then perhaps you'd entertain questions afterwards or during. Okay, great. Thanks.
Oh, I thought Linda should go first, but I'll go first. I understand, though, one thing I got to say before we start, that one member of our little panel is extremely happy to see Louise and I here. And because this morning when she got up and she saw the snow, she realized Louise walks with canes and I walk with canes. She was going to walk out of town. So you wouldn't have had anybody here. But as it worked out, with the kindness of my wife and a few others, I made it. So did Louise. And I made it stay in town. I don't know just what kind of stories you'd like to hear. I don't know whether you're interested in what we had for businesses and village, structures, buildings that were around, or some of our quaint old characters that we had. And I expect we still have some. My first recollection of Cotuit, my family, of course, was from here for years. I don't know just how long. The home that my son now has been in my family for about since the early 1860s, I would say. But my father was the black sheep of the family, and he moved out of Cotuit up to Milton, where he was a school teacher or a master at Milton Academy. And in 1940, he retired down here. But prior to that, I came to Cotuit as a young boy. I recall things happened around about 1935. But my first recollection of Cotuit was we were living down in Papanesset in a tent. There was no buildings down there. It was all tent city. And it was coming down by for the post offices now. Seeing a great big sign down there saying welcome to Cotuit. And giving the history of Cotuit, and it was how it was named for an Indian name. And that's for some reason that stuck out in my mind. The other thing that I recall, and I'm sure it might sound very strange now, was the number of traffic lights in Cotuit. There was no traffic. I mean, nobody had any cars to speak of, but there was a little small, seemed to look like a little lighthouse up by Putnam Avenue where it was on the main street. There was another one up by the corner by the church in front of the post office. There was a traffic light, not a light, but a blinking light down at the end by the sign. And there was one down in the fork of the roads, down where Ocean View Avenue. Why, I don't know. There was only 5 cars in the village. I'm afraid they weren't too sure of their driving ability. But that's my first recollection of Cotuit. Now maybe somebody else would like to hear something. I guess not.
Well, I was born in Cotuit. I was born in the house that my daughter Nancy lives in now. Of course, I go back 5 generations. I came here 5 generations ago. The Historical Society part of it started, I guess, with my great whatever grandfather. So my family have been around for a long time. I'm not sure how my mother's mother and father got together, because one came from Maine and the other came from Indiana, and I've kind of forgotten how they both ended up in Cotuit. But I have lived here all my life, gone through the school system here in the town of Asheville, in Cotuit, in the school that was up across from the church. has practically all stayed here in Cotuit. I had an aunt that moved to Arlington. I had another aunt that moved to Middleborough. My grandparents were all right here, so we never traveled anywhere very much. We didn't have the money to travel very far anyway, and there weren't any relatives to go anywhere to visit and stay with because they were all here. My kids, I remember, it was a big deal to go to Middleborough to visit my aunt up there because she had a television, and that's where they saw some of their first good television shows, was when we went up there to Aunt Ellen's to visit on a Sunday. So we've been around Cotuit for quite a while, and now my 4 girls haven't moved very far away. One is all the way over in Austinville, one's in Marston's Mills, and 2 of them are still in Cotuit, and as I said, one of them living in the house I was born in. You can't get very far away from us. About every other house around that block belongs to one of the family that was grandparents' house at one time, and now their grandchildren are living in it. So we've been around for a while, and it looks like we probably are going to stay, most of us.
Pretty well established now.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, some of you, most of you probably know who I am. And if you don't, my name is Louise Harmon. I was born in Cotuit, raised here in Cotuit, and so was my mother and my grandmother and her mother and her grandmother. We go back quite a few generations. My earliest recollection as a child in Cotuit was the fact that I could walk, and my mother would let me walk, from my house, which is the Hesselbach house now, mine was my home, walk from there either through the woods or down by the shore, and make it all the way up to the village without even hitting Tower Road and all. There are lots of paths going up through the backwoods that belong now to Cummings, I guess. But we could go out Mother's back door, and if we headed left on the very bottom pathway, we would go over a little bridge over a little river, go from there up and back of where Liz Barton lived, and then go from there down where Mark Howe lived on the point, on Andy's Point. And at that time, there was a little bridge there. And I kind of wish Mr. Gould would put that bridge back. I miss it.
Doesn't belong to me. I wish it did.
But there was a little bridge, footbridge that you could walk. Of course, it got kind of slurpy sometimes when the tide was high. But and then, of course, we'd walk across all the beach, Cummings, or the Bennett Smith that was in, to Rose's, and then up to the pathway from Rose's up to the top of the hill, and we could then hit the tar road and go to the library. And that was a treat for me because I could go by myself. I didn't have to have my older sister or other sisters with me, and my father, of course, was working, and Mother could, leave the other children. So that was really a treat for me to be able to go to the library all by myself. I worked in the post office for 42 years. Lots of strange things have gone on. In that time, lots of changes have gone on. And I won't tell you the story that most of you have heard right now, but I promise to tell it before the meeting is over, because you might have some questions that you would like to hear. I think we probably want some input from the audience, questions,
I
what
just
you'd
have
like to know.
one comment. Marion, your maiden name, for people that might not know what your maiden name was.
Oh, yes, obviously Doddridge. I meant to the Historical Society.
And Louise, your maiden
drive, and I just about come close to knocking that thing out that much.
Oh, that's the
I
little
was
crack.
going to get my license, and I almost hit that thing on the way out.
I don't know how the school buses made it around that. I still can't imagine. We did, and I don't ever remember hitting it, but it doesn't seem like there was room enough
Well,
to make
they
that
used to
turn.
make a wide swing, I know that. In those days, we only had 2 school buses from Cotuit. There was only 2. And they weren't full when they left the village. Uncle Burley's Avery, that was Marion's uncle, drove one of them, and Leon's Avery drove another one. I think Leon had something like 7 people in his when he left down here, but they stopped all the way along, going over to Hyannis to the high school, junior high school. And there were 9 buses at that time that took the whole town of Barnstable to the schools. There was one other bus in Cotuit, which Walter Scudder owned, and he just went to the Cotuit Elementary School and the Masters Mills Elementary School. That was his whole run. That was in the 40s, early 40s, because that's when I moved here permanently, was in the 40s. But there were just the 2 school buses. And did we raise the devil?
Well, but that's what I was going to say. If we got to raising the devil, both Sabres, they weren't related, I don't think.
No, I don't think they were.
Leon and Burley. But if you got raising the devil or were too noisy on the bus, he wouldn't say anything to you then. He'd wheel that bus around and take you right back to the high school, or take you right back to the school and make you wait for the late bus.
You were almost home, you wouldn't even do that.
No?
You just reach down to the emergency brake, pull it up, and you say, out like a hot potato. It puts you right out right there. That's it. Walk home from there. I remember one day, Burley's bus was, we used to stop on Bridge Hickey Store, but
Yeah.
boy, still really is now. That's something we ought to get into the little store down there. He used to stop down there, and that's where he picked up most of his kids. And I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the favorite tricks was to take a potato and put it in the muffler and exhaust pipe on that bus. About the time he got to play the library, he'd fire that thing. I won't tell you who used to do it. I could have been me, because I got on down here. I also remember when I first came here, there were 3 grocery stores, and all doing pretty well. There was Pioneer Market, which is located right about where the fuel pumps are. Not the gasoline pumps, but where the storage for kerosene in back of Sutter Station. On that bank was the Pioneer Market. And in the corner, where the Sears block was, there was an A&P. And the Control Grocery was up where it is now. All 3 of them used to deliver. In fact, the Control Grocery, Mr. Herbert Snow, used to come down the house in the morning, take your order, go back, open, fill it, bring it down in the afternoon. But that was because, like I said, there was only very few automobiles. There wasn't nothing to go to Hyannis, no way to get to Hyannis. Hyannis was a day's trip.
It is now, you want to walk them all.
I think one of the things that I've been thinking about is that I don't remember being afraid when I was a child. And I think so often nowadays, you don't even dare put your child out in the yard in their baby carriage, or your kids don't wander around too much. We went everywhere and we knew everybody, and I just don't ever remember that fear of don't talk to strangers. And I think nowadays we have to instill so much in the kids' minds that they have to be careful of this and be careful of that. And maybe I was very naive, but I guess I was always the baby of everything, so I don't think I was ever afraid of anything. I always thought I was going to be taken care of, I guess, by
That's because
everybody.
we were
but-
such good kids.
Yeah.
We would never hurt anybody.
But we made our own fun. We didn't have places to go to went to each other's houses and played games, or we got good exercise. We went out and played follow the arrow. You drew arrows on the ground, and then another crew came out looking for you, and you just went all over Cotuit, or through the woods roads, and so on and so forth. And also my whole life, and I think a lot of us, was centered around the church. That's where most of your social activity was, between Sunday school and youth fellowship, and we had evening church services on Sunday. And when we had youth fellowship groups, we didn't go on New York trips or all over everywhere. No, yes we did. We went from the church into the pine room, what is known as we call it the pine room, then is known as the craft room now. And we would have a worship service, and we would have a program that was planned that we talked about social issues or different types of things, and then we had entertainment after that. It wasn't just to go and have a good time. It was you had a program that you learned something as well. And usually our evenings ended up sitting around the fireplace in the pine room. I wonder how many years it's been since there's been a fire in that fireplace. Yeah, I would too. We used to sit around that and sing.
What time period is that? What time period?
40s.
Early
40s. Yeah. And we had a big junior choir. We probably had 20 people in the junior
several
choir.
groups, yeah.
So most of our activities were church related. With our youth fellowship group, as well as our regular meetings, we'd go to each other's houses and do things. And Arthur and Jesse Phillips were the counselors when I was in youth fellowship. And I never thought anybody ever had anybody that was as good after that. Before or after, we had wonderful times with them. And nowadays, nobody knows what to do. There's nothing to do.
Well, at that time too, Mary, we had a minister that took an interest in the young people and he had 4 children of his own. So he had an interest in keeping those children busy, and he would go into sports with us. We'd go up and play ball down back where the post office is now.
That's quite a ball field down there.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, we used to play ball down there. But we also, the school that used to be there, had an upstairs room that you could go, and they had a boxing match, and they had a mat, and they had shuffleboards and pool tables, and we had those cards that we played. So
Little hand hockey boxes.
yeah, so he had us go from our meetings sometimes over there for the recreation, and we didn't have to just hang on the street corner down here.
Spring of the year, they take us up to those little ball back.
Yeah, right.
All sandlot baseball. There was no grass.
No.
We played right in the sand.
I don't think we had the pressures on us that everybody has nowadays. That was one thing.
Yes, good.
Louise, did you ever go with Mr. Kraft when we used to use Wally Hollow's horse and we go cut wood for the fire? And
I
Mrs.
can
Kraft
remember
would
using,
make,
I can remember using John Sousa's house to plow the sidewalks. Old Kitty.
yeah, I remember that. But we
plowed
used to
the
get
sidewalk.
Wally Hollow's horse.
Plowed the sidewalk from Shell Lane to Route 28. And next thing, just when you come down from home, you just like the horse go because you know where you were going. You just walk along the side, and if you could get the horse to stop long enough, you'd shovel out between the sidewalk and the road. Excuse me for the people that we had plowed in.
But you never cut wood.
Never cut wood. I cut wood, but not legally.
Louise, you remember the train that we used to have in the grammar school?
I was just thinking about
The
that.
what?
A train.
Train.
Well, I used to get in with, in fact, I got some pictures on
didn't amount to a dime. But he'd turn it on, and every time he breathed, it would blow the breath right onto the windshield and freeze it even worse. So he'd sit there and he'd go like that. He's driving this school bus with about 60 of us in there looking out for him. I don't know how he ever got us home. Although usually it wasn't so bad coming home, but getting us there. It was colder in the morning.
I think that bus went on remote control anyway, because he never looked at the road, he looked in the mirror.
Oh yeah, he's all. See who was doing what. Oh, God.
That's why most of us walk. Most of us in Cotuit just walk to school, we didn't have buses picking us up.
That's true,
So
we
in
also,
those days, you had to be at least a mile from
Now they stop every even half a mile or something.
You had to be at least a mile away from the house from the school, at least before the bus would pick you up and give you a ride.
and we went home for lunch. And I remember going home one day and I decided it wasn't going back. And I didn't for 3 days, but for those 3 days.
Bill had something to say about that.
For those 3 days during school hours, I sat in one chair all that time. And I decided after the 3rd day it was worth it to go back to school. That was in elementary school. I probably was in the 2nd or 3rd grade maybe, but I wasn't going back.
You talk about staying home from school. Don Prentice, Bob Lorraine and I decided, okay, we're just coming up on a 2 weeks vacation for Christmas. I shouldn't name names because it's not fair to people. But we decided that we were going to go to school the Friday before vacation. So we skipped school. And Les Hall's place, remember Les up at Les?
Yep.
His house was down there on Hall Lane. He lived out in the barn out back, the main house he closed up. He passed away, the building was still there. Anyway, we went in there, which I should have did. He had an old 410 shotgun. So I wonder if he's still alive to tell the story, but all 3 of us made it. We went out into the woods with that shotgun and some old shells that was in it. And Bob Lorraine picked it up and put it up against his shoulder. I said, no, you better not fire that thing. I said, it's that to blow up. You know, we didn't know anything about it. So anyway, that scared him. So we went back and cut down the disposable thing, and we tied the gun to a tree. And what clothesline was left, we put under the trigger house. We backed off as hard as we could. We jerked it, and boy, that thing went all to pieces. It would have killed us all. Oh, but anyway, that whole 2 weeks, that whole Christmas vacation, all I was worried about was going back to school, because I knew I was in trouble. My mother, bless her heart, she knew something was wrong. So the night before school was to open again, she came to me and she said, Lee, what has been bothering you? And I told her, I said, no, I skipped school last night. She said, well, you've never done it before. She says, I'll write you a note this time. Boy, that was some relief. So I went to school, I gave the note to my own room teacher, I didn't read it. Teacher read it, he says to me, Connie Fair, remember Connie Fair?
Yes.
He said, you better go down and see the principal. So I went down to Mr. Hodge's office. Mr. Hodge said, you know what this note says? I said, no. He said, to whom it may concern you, my son skipped school on Friday.
In the winter, we used to have a lot more snow than we have nowadays, and we used to have a lot more ice. And we spent a lot of our time in the winter down on Lewis Pond skating. I don't know that that's that skate on anymore. I don't think that many people go down there. Or we'd go, and we went sliding. I never went sledding in my life. I don't know where that came from. We used to go sliding,
Yep.
and we went up to Barn Hill at the what is the golf course. So those were two of the big winter spots that we spent a lot of time. And we used to be able to have a bonfire down at Lewis Pond, so when it got too cold, you could go and right down the bottom of the hill by Mary Morris's is where we always had the bonfire. I remember one year my brother got a little too close, my older brother, and his skates heated up, the steel from his skates, and boy did he have blistered feet. Oh, something terrible. But we spent a lot of time down there.
Do you remember them cutting ice, maybe not at Lewis Pond, but at Eagle Pond? Do you remember that?
They did at Lewis Pond too, I think, yeah. I think so.
I remember
Was there
cutting
an
ice.
ice house down there, Marion, at one time?
That must have been before my time.
Because I thought Mr. Milton kept telling me when I worked there that.
I think that was Mary.
Yeah.
My first job, full-time job, I worked with the Cotuit Oyster Company, and we cut ice in order to get out to the, well, Tommy was there.
Yep.
We cut ice in order to get out to the oyster ranch to pick up oysters. So you cut ice all day long. You didn't have a chance to get out any oysters out of the water because you were, all day long getting there. You'd come back in that night, go out again the next morning, start cutting again because it never would freeze right over
He
again.
used to drive right on the
I've seen
Herbert
her
Gibbons.
husband's brothers, Vicky and Manny and John. They had an old touring car, what we used to call touring car, four-door convertible. And I've seen them drive from Cottonwood's Point right down to Point Isabella,
Sure.
right across. The ice would be like this underneath the car. Sag, as long as you kept it moving, you were all right. I can also remember, I don't remember, but my father always used to tell me I was having hospices out there. But I have seen them drive on right out here in the bay. Many times, many times.
Mary, what about where the horse stores down there and where the park is now?
What's the use? You can see us block. We probably remember this better than I. But on the corner, on the School Street end was where A&P was. They wound up being the Pioneer Market, then it was independent. Earl McDowell and Weston Gifford owned it at the end. And between there and what was the post office was the barber shop,
And the cats. Oh,
Manny Barber's Cat.
And the orange.
You could go into Manny the Barber's hair place to get a haircut. And you wanted to save a lot of time because he cut one hair at a time. I have gone down there and there was a fellow sitting in the chair and I said, I'm not leaving. I thumbed over to the hospital, had my hair cut and come back, the guy's still in the chair. Anyway, then next to that was the post office. And when I first remember, the little fire station was right next to the post office. And as you went up School Street, right, well, where the grocery office is now, that was C.O. Hollow's meat market. He sold nothing but meat. Next to that was a little building that was at one time set over where Scudder's gas pumps are. That was the telephone exchange. They moved it over there. And that was I. Holtzman, the tailor. And next to him was Gibbs Sandwich Shop. And the pool room. Charlie Brett's Barber Shop.
yeah.
And so it was quite a thriving little metropolis. There was a shoe store. I know I say shoe store. It might have been just that somebody sold shoes out of their house, but they called it a shoe store. Where Orphan Rose is down, Oakview Avenue on Main Street. There was another store. If you go in Shell Lane now, if you go in Shell Lane the new way, and turn to the left, and right straight in front of you, there's a little house that was John Regal Sousa's, where you moved that, you retired. Then they moved it back up there, but that house sat between what I call my pop's house and where Joe Souza lives. There's not much room, but that little building sat in there. And that was a little small variety store. That was great because we could walk my house right up there and pick up a piece of a chocolate or whatever, cooked thing. And, but then there was, as you go down Shell Lane, first house on the left was Ernest Nicholson's. And his wife Aggie, they were nice people. But out in back there was a 5-car garage. It was always going to be a fence. Oh, that's a big thing. This really was. Down in the harbor, there were 2 massive boats when I first came in. Rollison's had a beautiful, about a 65-foot or 70-foot schooner. And Whitman had a 55-foot, I mean, a 55-foot yawl. Malins were rented, but it's Bailey's house now, which we haven't really over there now. They had a big cat shop. There was one other, I can't remember the name. And we had 3 hotels. 3 going hotels. I don't remember one of them. There still were 3. That actually there were 4, but one burned down, and I don't remember that. So the Cotuit Inn was a pretty busy place. The Hotel Pines was exceptionally big. They had a little tea shop where you could go and get ice cream cones, floats for Sundays and whatever. And next to that was the wisteria where all the waitresses stayed. And then this place over here, which was, well, no, the Sandwood House was up Main Street, yeah. But this place right here was the Jennings Estate. This was the Jennings Estate, and somewhere along the mid-40s, family by the name of Abdel from Worcester bought it, made it into a hotel. So it was a pretty active place. Scudder used to meet every train and every bus. I drove for him for a little while. He had 1941 Ford station wagons. He had 2 of them. And he had an old Curtis and old Buick. 7 passenger Buick. That thing had burned about as much gas here in the bus basket. Where did they go? Oshkosh.
Lee, you mentioned the post office when it was down here on the corner.
I also remember when it was up on the other corner.
Well, when I was down at the Sears Club, that was another big event. We had a mail that came in the evening. And that was a big deal to go down to the post office in the evening.
7 o'clock.
And everybody stood in there and waited for them to put the windows up after they got the mail sorted. But that was a big social gathering, and especially as we got to be a little bit older, towards our teens, to be able to go out in the evening and go down and stand in the post office and wait for the mail.
Wait for the train
Yep.
to come in, because the mail truck used to go to West Barnstable to get the mail off the train in those days.
I used to walk from my house. I'd come up right at the end of Shell Lane every evening, line check. Just a bit, would be standing there. And you didn't have to say anything. You just start to walk, and he'd say, "Is that you, Lee?" You know. But come on, we walk along together. So we walk along, but boy, you want to walk on the inside.
Yeah, right.
Because he knew where every tree was. And as he walked, he took that candle and he hit that tree and off a wall. If you'd been on the outside, it would have been you that got it right around the shin. So we walked up to the post office, wait for the mail to come in and go home. And on the way home, he'd always tease again. Because cold night, he said, I got an advantage. You start going, I go right under the blankets with me. Because they used to read in Braille, you know. We had to hold our books outside. He was a character. We had a lot of characters.
Talking about Mr. Ed Newell, in Harmon over here, he was going to, after he remodeled, he was going to have a reception for the people in Cotuit. So he came into the post office to stay and bought a lot of stamps. I don't remember how many. But he bought a lot of stamps, and then he went over to the counter and started looking at the stamps and putting them on. And finally, I guess he got tired of it and came back over to the window where I was, and he said, "I'll make a deal with you." He said, "Put these stamps on." I said, "I'm sorry, I don't make deals with anybody. You put your own stamps."
We had another fellow, George Fuller. Oh yeah, there's another thing I meant to mention. We were talking about buildings and things going on. Just beyond the Cotuit grocery where it is now, there's a house across the street on the corner of Putnam Avenue and Main Street. And behind it, there's like an open field. Not grocery field, but where there's two little houses like that, two nice houses built in there now. Used to be a church there. Christian Science Church used to be there. Two big buildings. They moved to Hyannis right where they are now. They took one at Lake, moved it to Hyannis, and the other one they took over there in one piece. But those two churches used to be there. Like one for the summertime and one for the wintertime.
Do you remember any other buildings being moved when you were a
Oh,
kid?
yeah, the telephone exchange building that they moved over. They made High Holtzman's Tail place in between the real estate office and the sandwich shop. They moved that eventually up on the corner of Highland Avenue and Main and School Street. And it's still there. It's a little house that's built there now. It's been added on to 2 or 3 times. Somebody was trying to tell me that they moved it up on the corner to the corner of Old Oyster Road and Main Street. But as I remember it now, when I was a kid, I used to go up to the Sand Hill Golf and the caddy. Old Oyster Road was about that wide, as a foot that thing. That was it. But we used to go that way. To go up to the golf course, the caddy, because we'd take Frankie Gifford to go up with us.
Frankie Gifford,
Yeah.
he was a little older than we were, 2 or 3 years
Yeah,
old.
just enough to be.
And my mother's house was on a little river, and it was on the widest part of the river where the river goes under the road, and there's a culvert there. The heron used to come in and go up that culvert and then go up to the pond to spawn in the spring. That river used to be black with heron. There isn't one in it now, I don't think. But anyway, Franklin was always getting into something. I mean, it didn't take him a half hour when he was down to your house to get into something. So this day, I don't know if Keith was there or not. He might have been. But my brother was there, and Franklin was there, and there was some other boys that were there too. They were going to jump the river, to see if they could jump the widest part of the river. Well, Franklin says, "Well, I can do it. I'll go get one of Mrs. Landis's clothes poles." We had an outside clothesline, and we had poles, that had a notch on it. They were locust poles, and they were good and tough, but they weren't very big around. They were fine for a sheep to, be put up in the air, but they weren't meant for humans to, be put up in the air. Anyway, Franklin says, "I'll go get one of those poles, Louise. I'll be right back." I said, "I don't know, Frank. I don't know whether you should do that or not." So he went and got the pole, and he started from the middle of our garden. My father used to have a garden there. Started clear, he said, "Clear the way, here I come." And he started, and he got as far as the river, put his pole in the middle of that river, thinking that he was going to go across, and the damn pole broke and down the way. And he came up sputtering. Oh, but he was forever getting into things.
Your brother was quite a cat, too.
Yeah. He and Keith used to ride horses.
Well,
Mrs.
I
Bell's horses
wasn't
at
going
4
to
o'clock
say
in the
anything
morning.
about Keith because he's such a highly respected.
Oh.
Really, but, I we had a little
What
building.
part of it had to be mentioned?
Now Louise. He lives on a family
I
base.
never heard of that before.
Well, you can see Dr. Rapp down there, he's beginning to blush a little. But we had a little building up there, about, I don't know, 10 by 10, like a little overnight cabin used to be. They little candy case in there for the caddies to buy the candy, other people, and eat some golf balls. Fred Howell was running it. But we measured. Somebody like Dr. Rapp stands up against the outside of that building, because the building's elevated about that high. And he'd count, 1, 2, 3, up to about 8, 10. That's how high your head was. Okay. Guy inside, because the building was elevated, go 1, 2, up to 9. Then you take a hand at the inside of it. Oh, boy, I'm telling you. Didn't that wake you up, Doc? Huh?
Everybody's got a crack at it.
Everybody. Oh, my gosh. And then when the streets would come, all the caddies that had been there a long time, they knew it. They ran. And those of us that didn't know what was happening, we got stuck. Because Mrs. Street and that boy, Benjamin,
Yeah.
they would caddy for them. Take about 2 hours to run that 9 holes. Because they hit it every, about 15 feet. And Mrs. Sears would say, "Oh, beauty, dear," she'd say. Well, anyway, when you got through, they give you 35 cents, and if you've done a real good job, you got a penny. Someone like Mrs. Odets would come up there and you got $1. That was a big deal. But like myself, we didn't get them guys. Dr. Rapp and his group got them.
You remember the poles that used to live right?
Reginald Bowles?
Yeah, Ruthie Montero and myself, we used to pick Mayflowers, when they were out. And we'd head right to the bowl, because she'd buy them from us,
Yeah.
And one time she gave us 75 cents. That was a lot of money. We went down to the grocery store and spent it all on all kinds of good things. But they always were ready to buy the Mayflowers,
That lady that used to own the house right next to the post office. What's the next name?
Louise Coleman?
No, that's not Coleman.
This is supposed to-
No, the other side.
Oh, Shaw, Claude Shaw.
Yeah, before that.
Lily Fuller.
Lily Fuller, that's
Charlie's wife.
Charlie Fred.
Charlie Fred.
Yeah, okay. She used to stop Eddie Savory when he was coming down to the village to get himself some lozenges, she called them, those nickel wafers, Well, at the A&P, you got 3 rolls of those for $10. Well, Eddie would always take that $9 and go down and go back up, get her 2 rolls. She'd say, "Well, what happened to the other roll?" He said, "The A&P was out." She said, "I had to get him and get him set on his shop." In the meantime, he'd eat the whole roll. That happened time and time again. She never got away with it.
You know this is all being recorded, don't you?
Yeah.
It's gonna come back to haunt us some of these days.
Well, I'm hoping that the people that I'm talking about, except for Dr. Rapp, are pretty well wiped out. Oh, boy.
We didn't used to do bad things, did we? No.
No.
I remember one Halloween when we went out, and I think my brother's up in the back row there somewhere, but we did used to kind of pick on one woman a little bit that lived across the street from the church. She had a tendency to be a little bit nosy,
No.
so it bothered us. So we always kind of managed to go to her house at Halloween, and we decided one year to sing Christmas carols to her on Halloween, and we stood there in her front yard and we sang to the top of our lungs, and most of us saw her coming, except for my brother. By the time she got out in the yard, he was the only one who was. Oh, well, he remembers that. And there was another woman up the street, another house up the street that had a doorbell. And that was great to stick pins in. You know, you stick pins in and it wouldn't stop ringing. Well, we didn't do real bad things, you know. They were bad in those days, but
Almost every Halloween, we had somebody, I don't know where they kept finding them, but somebody would come up with a water closet.
a back house.
No,
That's what they were.
Now, it would always be right in the middle of the block down here,
Yeah, right.
like a traffic signal. Yeah, old game. Well, they ran out of them one year, and Walter Sutter had just built that new building. And when he came to work, there was another house, a wagon, up on the roof of that building. How in the world they got it up there, I had no idea. But there it was. Oh, my goodness.
I remember one year that, and I wasn't so young when I did it either, that we wrapped the parsonage up in toilet paper one Halloween. And my aunt had put that idea in my mind. She said, you want to have some fun sometime? She said, buy a lot of toilet paper and just go round and round and round the house. So we decided to do it for the parsonage one year. I'm not sure, Ann, was that the same year that we went out dressed up?
Yes.
Was it? Well,
Girl.
we were old enough to know better then, I will admit. 4 of us got dressed up.
Never told me about that, Mother.
Oh, she must have.
Never told me about wrapping the parsonage. No, sir, she's afraid of it.
That was after we were
I would
married.
never have done anything like that.
I remember going out with you and Ann
And
and
Gwen,
Gwen,
the 4 of us.
and we were all dressed in costumes.
Yes, we dressed up in
I
costumes.
was a, oh dear, what do you call those things with straw in them? A scarecrow, and I was smoking at the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have a cigarette because I'd afraid I'd go up in flames. Yeah, I remember that.
We got my husband to go with us one of the years that we dressed up, and we dressed him up as a woman. He lost his hat at one of the first houses that we went to. But I remember when we went to Arnold Mycock's,
Yeah.
and Louise and Ann and Gwen and I stayed back, and we let Manny go up to the door. And Arnold started talking to Manny and yakking away for a few minutes. We took treats. We didn't ask for treats. We always took people something. And it was about 3 months afterwards, we were talking about it one day, and Arnold said, you know, he said, this woman all dressed up, came to my house at Halloween time. He and Manny were best of friends, and he never knew it was Manny. He never knew it was Manny. He had a velvet cape on and a wig, and we had a lot of fun doing that. I think as young adults, we did a lot of things together that people don't have time enough to do now because everyone's either working or something, but we had our couples club at the church, and we did a lot of activities
What you talk about?
as couples.
Yeah, you talk about the couples club. When I got out of the service the second time and came up, got married, brought my wife down here, and she was lost. She didn't know anybody. It wasn't so bad for me because I brought up here. I knew a lot of people. But there was nobody for Ann. Your sister Georgie and Stanley were the first 2 that came to visit us. Well, anyway, that was the year that they decided to have a little couples club at the church. And Ann and I joined together. And Ann got to meet an awful lot of people. Since then, she's been more popular than I. But we had, at Halloween time, twice, I believe it was, up here in the attic, we had a haunted house. And did we ever have fun with it? We had everything up there. That used to be where the Masons used to meet. Mariners Lodge is still painted up in there on the end. There used to be like an A dormer up on that end, and the stairway came down the side, so they had an exit outdoors.
It's up one more flight from that
From the
balcony.
balcony,
It's
you can
all-
see where the
all-
stairway
all
goes
the-
up there.
All the way to the building.
Oh, yeah, it's a big room. They used to have a big pot-belly stove over in that northwest corner. The heater thing.
Do you recall going to movies here, or do we act?
Bill Nickerson's movie picture theater once a week.
Whose was it?
William Nickerson, Eddie Nickerson's father.
He used to tap dance.
Yeah.
He did lots of other things.
Yes, he did. I can remember when the church had fair right out here.
Sure.
And I mean, they had a fair.
They
Dance
raised
concerts,
turtles.
Raised turtles, drove the rings around the bottles, knocked the bottles off.
We gambled a little bit.
Yeah, oh yeah. Drove pennies on the float and dish.
Do any of you remember, I vaguely remember a sideshow downstairs in this building? The fat lady, the...
I was the bearded lady.
You were... What was that? Was
That was our church youth fellowship group. We had a circus. Yeah, I had a stall, and I was
There's
the
someone
bearded
had
lady.
a fish that looked like there was I vaguely remember a fish bowl and fish, and I thought, how did they get this fish bowl on their heads with water in it? And I'm sure it was an illusion, but it really mystified this little girl.
It was a lot of fun to do those things. A lot of fun.
I wonder what your recollections are of major hurricanes and storms when you were younger?
I came out of the hospital in 1944. I came out of the hospital the night before after having some surgery on my back. And it's my whole family have always been involved in the fire department and the rescue and so on. So my brothers and my father were all out and around, and our house was a two-story house. We weren't allowed to go upstairs. It wasn't safe to go upstairs. So I was on the couch in the living room, and my older sister was laying on the floor right side of me, and there was a window just to the head of where the couch was that blew in. And it went right over my head, but her hair was full of glass. She was on the floor. That's my first recollection of the 44 hurricane.
I have
But
some...
I was able to go out afterwards the next day and walk around a little bit, you know, to see the damage and so on. But that
Well,
was
we
scary.
lived right in this house next to Freedom Hall. That was my family's home. And the 44 hurricane, it was nighttime when it appeared.
Mm.
And I remember waking up and seeing my grandfather picking the scatter rugs up off the floor and nailing them to the windows because the windows were all breaking from an ocean. And there were buildings all along, beach houses from Abdella's Inn. Crawford's had another cottage down there that all went right out to sea. The next day they were totally gone.
That, in the 1938 hurricane, I wasn't here. My father did bring us down that weekend. He left us up in Milton with my grandmother. But the 44 hurricane, I remember it very well. Like Louise said, we always went to the post office, get our mail. So my brother and I, and Eddie Jackson, for some reason, was staying with us that week. We walked up to the post office to get our mail. It was a stupid thing to do. When it got time to get home, all the telephone wires, electric wires went down. How are we going to get home? We were scared. And like you said, all those buildings down there were gone. But one of Crawford's houses, they left the toilet seat was right there, the toilet. Remember? I have a picture at home, me sitting on it. That's all that was left of that house. Oh yeah, there was a little small dinghy that was banging up against this wall. So Eddie and my brother and I, we worked like the devil. We got it up off over the wall and we tied it to a tree. Right there. Tree and all were gone the next morning. Then down by the Riley estate, there were, there was Morse's, Sinclair's, Whitcomb. All of the material from their docks, plus all the boats, had broken through the Riley's beach and gone into the Riley's estate, the lower part of Riley's estate. I never saw such a mess in my life.
And on the beach in front of Whitcomb's there, they had lost the beach house and we were walking along the beach and there was a refrigerator over one of Miss Riley's ponds and in it were 2 bottles of Coca-Cola floating around inside. And Betsy and Bobby had gone out to sea. They were her sons, her swans, I mean. And that was some party.
Yeah, her boathouse went, that is a nice boathouse there, she had rebuilt all that.
What I remember about that storm is that there were a lot of pine trees in back of our house. And of course, as Bonnie said, it happened at night. So, you know, you couldn't see what was going on, but you'd hear things snapping. And you'd say, well, now, what in the world? It sounded just like a match, you know, a stick snapping. And you looked out the next morning and the tops of those old pines, not the old pines, but the pine had just snapped right off. They didn't snap off at
We
the bottom.
lost 48 out of 53 pine trees in
Yeah.
our backyard.
And
Remember the trees along Main Street?
Oh,
You
yeah.
couldn't drive down Main Street.
No, you couldn't walk down
No,
Putnam Avenue.
for weeks.
No.
Just no trees were all.
We had no power down in the high ground area for 5 days.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
But I think not the funniest, but the strangest storm that we had was Hurricane Bob just recently. When it parked all those boats from Ropes's right along the beach, just as though someone had come up and parked them there. That was their spot. That was the strangest sight I ever saw in my life. And that only lasted, what, 2 or 3 hours?
I do remember in the 44 hurricane that we didn't get homework until the last home had electricity. And I know Alan Mickelin and Marcy's Mill said it was 3 weeks before we got electricity.
Louise, was it serious flooding? Did you have high tides?
It was serious, well, there was lots of flooding, down at the shore, the water was way up beyond, well, like, you know where Liz Barton used to live, the water was way up there, the water line. And all the people that built that new house, right on the shore there, Linda was walking the beach one day, and she heard the lady say to her husband, I wonder how high this tide gets. Linda says she's a little late asking everybody.
When you go around the loop, the last house up on the left-hand side before you hit Main Street, but the buddy there was back away. There's a little bay window on the water side, and a little solid entrance underneath. The water was in there.
Oyster Harbor's Marine and their marine store has marks on the door jam of all the different stores.
Same thing over in Chester Crosby. So is where the water level was. It's pretty high up in some of those boat sheds.
The 44 was much worse than the 38 in this location.
The only thing with the 38, evidently, from what I can gather, like I said, I wasn't here, was the title search that came in. My father told me that the title search was approximately 5 feet high. And that's when it just picked up all the docks and it just flipped them right over to one piece and sent them on down the beach.
We don't know.
Before our time.
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
I've heard about it.
One of the things that we didn't touch on is what it was like around here in World War II.
I was
Yeah.
about rationing.
There again, you know, I was young enough that I wasn't really that concerned about the war part of it. It didn't mean as much to me as it did some of the older ones, but I was involved in different activities in the village. One of the things that we had was an airplane spotting place at the fire station,
Junior Airway Ward.
where the fire station is now, and you always had two people on duty to spot any airplanes that came in. And I worked there, different shifts. There was always an adult with me, but I was, 13, 14 years old. And to this day, I can remember saying, I'm Flash 2210, that's what we'd say. We'd pick up the phone. There's a single engine plane flying in this direction to that. I can't tell you what direction north, east, south, and west is, but I could do it then and tell you what directions the planes were flying. And also, when they used to have air raid practices, I was often a victim for the Red Cross people, and they used the downstairs here as the place to bring their victims. And let me tell you, it was no fun going down those cellar stairs on a stretcher in those days. But I can remember laying on the porch up to Cotuit Inn, and I'd have a broken arm, a broken leg. You had a sign on you that said what was the matter with you, and the rescue would come and bandage you all up and put you on a stretcher and bring you down here and go down, take you down those steep stairs going down the cellar.
Dr. Higgins will take care of what you got to do.
Right, yeah. But I thought that was fun to do those kind of things. The seriousness of it wasn't setting in at that kind of thing.
That's another thing that's changed considerably, and I'm sure Dr. Rapp will remember. Back when we were sick, we would take it to Dr. Higgins's. Dr. Higgins, I don't think he knew what a prescription form was. He'd test you, see what was the matter, and when he went to go out in the back room, come up with little gray pills, that little white, doesn't make any difference what's the matter with you. That's what you got, a little gray
Black,
pills.
pink, and green.
Yep. Well, I thought they were gray. He used to go right out there, and when you left there, you had your medicine with you.
You didn't make an appointment to go either. You just went, and
Oh, yeah.
his office was right across the street. And you just sat in his little waiting room and
Waited your turn.
When it was your turn. That's where I first met Ann. I think it was when Cindy was it Cheryl? Cheryl and Nancy then it must have been, were babies. And we met in Dr. Higgins' office.
Yes, sir, boy. Dr. Higgins in those days charged $75 for the whole 9-month pregnancy. $75. And that actually took her until the baby got the first shot.
I can remember German prisoners maybe could do it.
Yes. Yeah, I
They
think
worked down to the turkey farm in Frida, Landis down there. And there used to be a contingent of them that was let off, I think, down to the corner of Putnam Avenue and Old Post Road, and every morning they would march up the street and go by our house and go into Frida's driveway.
Were they shackled?
No.
No.
They didn't want to go back.
No, they didn't.
They didn't want to go back. They had to pay.
The people with them, the guards had guns, but I don't think probably they knew how to do it.
That's another big thing we had was can do it.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. I mean, we had about 120 of the invasion barges that carried personnel down there at Point Isabella, in that area. The big motor pool, and there were 5 of the 110-foot long LC LCT, I think they call them, landing craft tanks. And if they went up through the harbor, you could hear them coming down my house. They made a tremendous big wake, and they used to roll the oysters up on the branch. Killed half of our oysters. But they'd go out every day and practice landing out on the outside of the pilot up there.
My husband was a,
That's where you met it.
yeah, well, not down there, but.
No. That's what brought it to Cotuit.
Yes, he was in the Coast Guard, so he was on board one of the picket boats that they had down there. And just about every day he'd come home and say, well, some other damn lieutenant got stuck out there and we had to go and rescue him. But they'd go aground, they didn't know, the bottom of the land and so forth, so over the water.
There were 3 of those army camps. There was
Candy.
Can do it, and can have done it, and can will do it.
Those are not.
Awesome, and we walk away.
They used to have USO dances with you.
Here.
Here.
Yeah, this was a local USO down below where they had showers for the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say down below, you downstairs?
Downstairs here, yeah.
You pointed that way.
Well, the showers are down in this area. Kitchen was over there. They used to have food for them, coffee was made all the time.
Does anyone have any questions?
Raising your story, please.
Yeah, we want to hear that story.
Please, Louise, please.
I've been asked, how'd you, got anything
Yeah, I
else?
was gonna say, I'd run out.
How would you, Marion?
No, go right ahead. I think we can keep talk long enough.
Okay. As most of you know, I worked in the post office for years, 42 years to be exact. And beside the post office, where it is now, Larry Shaw, Pete's father and his mother. Well, Larry used to come into the post office every day, 2 or 3 times a day. I mean, we'd sort the mail, and he'd come in and get it, and go back home and pay it, and come back and mail it, and then he'd look in his box again. So it was a constant stream of traffic between his house and the post office. Well, this day he came in, and a little boy came in just ahead of him. And I don't know who the boy was now, but anyway, the child brought to me at the window a little black box that was a little bit smaller than that and a little bit narrower than that. And it had one button in the middle of it, and only one button. No directions, no off, no on, no left, no right, nothing. It just had that one button. So Larry went home, of course, and the little boy brought the machinery or whatever it was to me. He found it. Said he found it. I said, okay, we'll find out who it belongs to. So we asked everybody that came into that post office, man, woman, or child, what that thing was and what it did, who it might belong to. Well, nobody knew. I asked the mail carrier, he was...
I pushed it up.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Everybody did. So this went on for 3 days of everybody pushing that button and not knowing what it did or if it was doing anything. So after about 3 days, Larry came tripping over the post office. He was a small man, short man, and he used to come tripping over, and he came to the counter and he says, Louise, have you got my garage door opener? Oh my God. Have we got your garage door opener? He said, well, I knew it had to be somewhere close by. He says, because my goddamn garage door has been going up and down for 3 days. All I could think of Larry being as short as he was, trying to get through that door
decaf coffee in the back, cookies, and help yourself. Thanks for coming.